Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Vignesh Ganesan. So, today our session would be on Microsoft Teams. So, I'm just going to give you a general overview of what Microsoft Teams is all about. And before I even get started, I'd like to thank you all for spending your valuable time with me this evening. It's a small crowd of people, but still, I'll try to do my best today. So, moving on. So, about the speakers. Myself, I'm Vignesh Ganesan. So I work as a technical manager for SharePoint and Office 365 in a France-based product company. And I'm a C# Corner MVP. In addition to that, I do some active blogging on C# Corner Collab 365 community, European SharePoint community, as well as on the Hubfly blog site. So these are the various community sites to which I contribute. In addition to that, so that's my blog site down there. So today with me, my co-speaker would be Jayanti. Due to some technical issues, she won't be able to join. So she was supposed to take care of the demo session for today. So today I'm gonna take care of the demo as well. So this is our agenda for today. So I'll begin with talking about what Microsoft Teams is all about, right? I believe this is the perfect time for us to talk about Microsoft Teams because just a month back on Ignite, Microsoft made their a big announcement that they would be deprecating Skype for Business Online very soon, and Microsoft Teams would be replacing Skype for Business Online. As of now, the date has not yet been confirmed, so Skype is still there, but maybe sometime next year, Skype for Business Online will be going out and Teams will take over. So I'm gonna give you a small introduction on what Teams is all about. So then I'm gonna spend quite a good amount of time on the architecture of Microsoft Teams. I'm gonna show you how Teams is built. So what are the backend work which Microsoft has done in giving such a good collaboration platform for us. So there is a lot of good slides which should help you guys understand how Team has been built. And then we have a demo on Microsoft Teams. So that is going to be a session on I'm going to show you how to create a team, what are the cool things that you can do within a team, and all those cool stuff. And I'm going to show you how to organize your team using Microsoft Teams, right? So within a team, I'm going to show you how to organize and how to stay focused and how to get your work done once you're inside a team. Then we have Microsoft Team clients. All right, so I'm going to show you what are the different client versions for Microsoft Teams. So similar to any other Office 365 service, like such as your group, or such as your planner, or such as your Skype for Business Online, or such as your SharePoint, even Microsoft Teams has its own client version. So I'm going to talk in detail about what are the different type of clients and how to make use of it. Okay. So I'm going to give you some small overview on how to plan the implementation of Microsoft Teams and then what to expect with Team replacing Skype for Business. As I already said, since the announcement has been made, I'm gonna show some, give you some good insights about what to expect with Team replacing Skype for Business. Then I'll be sharing you the roadmap which Microsoft has planned for Microsoft Teams, and then few use cases, and then we'll do a recap, and finally we'll conclude. Okay, so this is going to be our agenda for today's session. So before I even step in, can I get to know how many of you have been using Microsoft Teams? How many are aware of Microsoft Teams? How many of you are using Microsoft Teams? Can you just put that in the chat window so that I get to know my audience as well? So anyone who's been using Teams, if yes, you can just put it as yes so that I get to understand. Okay, so I see one person has been using it. All right, so I don't think most of you have been using it, but it's good. I'm going to show you right from the scratch what it does and how you can make use of it. Okay, so these are our targeted audiences for today's session. So to begin with, one moment. Okay, for some reason that slide wouldn't show up. Okay, so here you go. So we have IT admins. So if at all you're playing the role of an IT admin in your organization, So yes, I have some good insights for you in today's session. So maybe you're taking care of the Exchange infrastructure, or maybe the SharePoint infrastructure, or maybe you're a Windows server guy and who has been asked to take care of Teams, Office 365 as well, right? So I'm going to show you some insights on how you can manage Teams for your users. And then for Office 365 admins and developers, so folks who are playing the role of taking care of the entire Office 365 ecosystem for your organization, and folks who are playing the role of developers. So maybe you could be a developer for SharePoint, or maybe you could be a developer for Teams, or maybe Power BI or Power Apps or whatever it is, right? So I'm going to show you how you can integrate Teams with all those other Office 365 services and how your users can get benefited out of it. And then, so folks who are new to Office 365, so my session today is just not meant for folks who have been working on Office 365 for quite some time. So it's also for people who are new to this Office 365 platform. And finally, if you're an enterprise or maybe a infrastructure architect, and if you're a decision maker, so if you're playing those kind of roles for your organization, I'm going to help you understand how to plan the adoption of Teams for your organization, right? So I'm going to show you what are the considerations that you should think about while planning the implementation of Microsoft Teams. Okay, so the journey so far. So I think everything should have a starting point, and that applies, that's there for Microsoft Teams as well. So this is how we all started, right? So if any of you today who's in this session come from a unified communication background, I believe this slide would make a lot of sense to you. So we have started with the Microsoft Exchange 2000 Enterprise Server. So back then your chat communication was part of it. So then we had the live communication server. Then we had the Office communication server. If at all you remember, we had those old, I think it was somewhere around 2010 or 2009. We had the communication, the chatter, which we used to do within us, within our colleagues and peers. And then Microsoft gave a new name called as Link Server with some good UI. And then came the Link Server 2013, the on-premises version of Link. And simultaneously, even Microsoft Link Online was released, which was a part of Office 365. So earlier on 2015, Microsoft announced that they would be replacing the name Link with Skype for Business Online. And that was the case for on-premises version as well. So we had Skype for Business on-premises as well as Skype for Business Online. And here we are on 2017, and Microsoft has made the announcement that they're going to replace Skype for Business Online with Teams. So this is the journey so far, and this is the journey for the unified communication. And it's really good to see that Microsoft has come a long way in all these unified communication platforms. So today we have Microsoft Teams right in front of us. All right, so before I even go ahead and start talk in detail about, I see a question. So I'm not Microsoft here, but to answer your question, they found that Skype for Business is just only meant for your chat experience where you can just chat, or maybe you could have calls with people. But in Teams, there is a lot that you could do. All right. So as I give you a demo, you guys would understand what Teams is all about. And I hope you all would agree that Microsoft has made a wise decision in removing Skype for Business, and they have planned to replace that with Teams. Okay. So the demo would explain a lot about that. So collaboration is how you get your work done, right? So collaboration is the key for anything, right? You need to make sure that you're coming to office every day, you're collaborating with your peers, you're collaborating with your managers, you're collaborating with folks who are there in your organizational chart, right? That is, maybe it could be through your chat, maybe it could be Skype for Business Online, or maybe you're using email to share emails or share attachments, and maybe you're having calls. So we as IT folks, we are dependent on collaboration, so we have to collaborate with folks in some or the other manner to get your work done. And as of today, all the organizations are going through this transformation process called as digital transformation, right? So as we speak about digital transformation, the goal is to move from a legacy platform to a smarter workplace, right? So we all want to get things done on the fly. We do not want to sit on the old legacy platforms such as your old SharePoint servers or maybe your Exchange servers or your Skype for Business servers. You do not want to implement all those, hire people to take care of it, and there is a lot that goes in when you want to manage those kind of in-house on-premises applications. But whereas Office 365 or the Microsoft 365 is concerned, it's a lot more better. There is a lot that you can do, and it integrates very well with all the other applications, right? So here are some needs as why do we collaborate. So we often don't just work with our internal folks. So as a part of a project or as a part of our work, we do communicate with external team members as well, right? They could be your clients, they could be your stakeholders, or they could be anyone. So as a part of our day-to-day work, most of us or all of us, I would say, we collaborate with people who are outside of our organization. And we all work in an organization which is geographically distributed, right? We just don't, most of us, I'm going to assume that most of us are working in an organization which has its offices maybe in the US, in the EMEA, in the Europe, or it's spread across everywhere, right? So they are geographically distributed, and we need a platform to communicate with each other. And the multi-generation workforce, right? So in an organization, you'll be having people with 25 years of experience, you'll be having people with 5 years of experience, with 6 years of experience, or maybe people who are freshers. And the expectation varies, right? So maybe for folks who are some 30 or who have some 30 or 40 years of experience, they are more comfortable with all the legacy platforms because they're used to it. They love it, they love the view. Wherein when it comes to the younger minds, they always want to see something really fun, they want to see some cool UI. And so that's what, so the expectation varies, right? And we all want to see something really cool as a part of our day-to-day work, and we don't expect to see the same stuff every day. So as I said, different groups have different needs, right? So part of us, we just like to go to office, chat with our colleagues and get our work done. And then there is a different group who prefers to have collaboration over emails, right? So they want to have an email, they want to have calendar. And then there is a different group of people who prefer to have communication over voice or videos or meetings, right? Because not all your conversations could be over chat, right? So at times you need to call someone and get things done. And then we have the co-authoring feature. Let's say if you're working on a document and there are multiple people who are working on the same document to collaborate, so there are scenarios like that. Then we have sites and content management as well as enterprise social. So the need varies, and so does the business, right? So as new platforms comes into picture, even the business grows, and we need to make sure that your business goes hands on hand with IT. And these are certain challenges which we face today. So we have the siloed apps, wherein you log into one application to get something done, and then you log into a different application to get something done. You have your HR somewhere, and maybe you have a different finance portal, maybe you have a different portal to claim your reimbursement. So there is a lot of things that you as a employee has to do. And then we spend a lot of wasted amount of time in switching between all these apps, right? Most of the time we don't even know what those apps are. We go looking around for the URLs, we try to get those URLs, we put it in the browser, try to figure out the username and password. There's quite a lot of awful work which is going on there. And then we have shadow IT. Now, this is something which all of us do. Often a time we end up installing softwares which is not even approved by our IT department, right? So we install it, we try to make use of it, and that is something which is not even approved by the your local IT department. And then they get hold of you and tell that, hey, I mean, your device is not compliant because you're running this application. So what I'm trying to tell here is Teams is something which is going to address all these gaps. So with a product like Microsoft Teams, all these gaps, all these issues, and everything can get addressed. So as I speak further on this presentation, you guys can understand what it can do better and how it eradicates all these gaps and issues. So the right tool is required for a better outcome. I hope that's true for your day-to-day work as well as for your life. You need to make sure that you're using the right tool to achieve more and to improve your productivity, right? And so that is the idea behind Microsoft Teams. So what is Microsoft Teams? So it is the hub for teamwork. It was your chat-based workspace before, and today it has become the hub for teamwork. So yes, you could chat with your colleagues. So chat is the most organic, fluid, or informal way of communicating with your peers or folks. And as I said, not all your conversations could be over chats. Sometimes you just need to call people, you need to jump into a meeting and get stuff done, right? So teams can offer that for you. And it's just not that. Teams can even integrate with other Office 365 applications, such as your SharePoint Online, such as your Exchange Online, such as your Power BI, such as there are a lot of many other things which teams can do. So it could seamlessly integrate with the complete Office 365 ecosystem. As I show you a demo, you guys would understand that in a better manner. So, and it is customizable and extensible. So when I say customizable, you as an IT admin could customize the experience of team for your users. So what I mean by that is you could just pick a population of users and tell that they get to enjoy these features in Microsoft Teams, and wherein there are different set of people where you're turning off that feature, right? So it is customizable. You get to decide what you want to turn on and what you want to turn off for your tenant. And then it is extensible, right? There are certain features which come out of the box, and if at all you prefer to extend to external line of business, or maybe you want to adopt some third party services into your teams, even that is possible. And none of all these things would matter if you do not trust it, right? Of course, it is Office 365. There is a lot of cool things which you could do, but if that is becoming intrusive to your business, or it is challenging your compliance and security, then I'm pretty sure none of us would be liking it, right? So Office 365 doesn't leave that gap. It ensures that security and compliance are taken care of. So whatever security and compliance has been applied for SharePoint, Exchange Online, or other services till date, the same applies for Microsoft Teams as well. So chat for today's teams. So of course, people can see content and chat history anytime, right? So you just add a person to a team, right? So he can see the chat as well as the content which has been previously going on. It's just not that he just gets added and he see the conversations only after that. I believe WhatsApp is a good experience for that. You add someone to the WhatsApp group, he'll be able to see the conversations only after he joined. But that's not the case with Microsoft Teams, right? So the moment you join, you could even see the conversations which was happening even before you joined that team. And team chats and activities are visible to the entire team. So whatever activities or team chats you're doing within a team, it's made visible to everyone. It's just not that. Sometimes you might, that could be a scenario wherein you want to get into private chats, like similar to your Skype for Business experience, wherein not all your chats could be on a team. You want to have a private chat with someone and ask, "Hey, I mean, what are you having for lunch? So what are you doing for this weekend?" Right? It could be anything, and it's not really appropriate to have those kind of conversations on a team chat where people are watching, right? So you could always have private chats. And as I already said, you have a mobile client for Teams, right? So it's open for Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. You just go to the App Store, you could download it. So all these are native mobile apps. I'll give a demo on that as well. So it's the hub for teamwork, as I said. So you could chat with people, you could have video meetings, audio calls with people, and then you have built-in access to SharePoint, OneNote, and Planner, and you could work with other Office documents right in the app. Okay, so the demo should explain how this works and how this has been built, and you guys will get to understand from there. So integrating with Office 365 and Office Pro Plus. So that is really the key here. So a couple of slides before, I was explaining that your Microsoft Teams could integrate with the complete Office 365 ecosystem, right? So you could integrate that. It's integrated with your Outlook, Exchange, and Yammer, so that you have all the conversations going on in Outlook. And then you have your SharePoint and OneDrive to put in your content. So let's say if you're sharing some documents and you want that document to be stored somewhere, so SharePoint and OneDrive, it will get stored in the SharePoint and OneDrive. And then you have the Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business for having an audio call or video call. And then of course, let's say you're working, there is some co-authoring which is going on, you're working on an Excel file, right? It's not really cool to send an Excel file to someone else, he makes some changes, and then it comes back to you and you make some change, and this entire process keeps going on, right? So I think only after Office 365, or maybe after Office Online, we had this concept of co-authoring, which really saved a lot of our problems, right? So we have this master copy. There is nothing like we have a duplicate copy. The changes which you made is not reflecting in a copy which other person has. So that's not the case, and that's the problem which co-authoring is trying to address. And extensibility of platform, as I already said, your teams could be extended for some other third-party services to some external line of business, so that you can take advantage from that as well, and you can inherit those features to teams. It's customizable for each team. So as I said, there are certain features which are out of the box. And in addition to that, there are certain features which, if required, you can go ahead and add it. And there are certain things which you could turn on, and there are certain things which you could turn off. It's totally up to you. And it's all about the IT admin. Let's say you as an organization do not want all the third-party services to be enabled, so you're going to just go there and turn it off because you do not want your users to make use of it. So I'll be showing you how you can do that as well. And then it's extensible for each team. So as I already said, within a team you could have a lot of categorization called as channels, and it is extensible, right? So you could add some external apps, you can have some tab, and you could discover some third-party apps and add that to your team so that your users can take advantage of it. Right now it is, as of now, out of the box, teams just give you SharePoint, Exchange, Power BI, Power Apps, and a couple of other things, right? And if at all you want to make use of some Twitter, or you want to make use of Facebook, or you want to make use of some RSS feed, which is, which is something which you're following, that is a community site which you're following. So everything is possible within Teams. So as of today, there are 150 plus integrations which you can do. So all these are external sources. And if you feel that you are making use of any of these services as a part of your project or as a part of your day-to-day work, of course, you could make use of all these apps. And as of today, there are 150 plus integrations that you could do, which is available there. All right. So security, as I've been already telling right from the beginning. So any cloud platform should comply with certain amount of certificates such as the HIPAA, the EU mode classes, and that is indeed a lot. So if you go to the Office 365 Security Center, that is a website called as such, and you can see all the certifications which Office 365 has, and any cloud platform for that matter should comply with all those compliance certificates. And definitely Office 365 being the leader in the SaaS world, they have all these certificates. And if at all you're interested in knowing more about that, just go to Security Center, and from there you get to see everything. And yes, so information protection is possible. So you have this mailbox litigation hold, e-discovery, and then you have the auditing. So that is something which has already been there in Office 365. You could put a user's mailbox in on hold. Maybe he resigned the organization, but still you want to see what's happening on his mailbox. That's possible. And then you could do an auditing from the Office 365 Admin Center, and that applies for Microsoft Teams as well. I'll show you on the demo on how you can audit Microsoft Teams and what are the parameters that you can audit in Microsoft Teams. And so data encryption at rest, and of course multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is something which most of the organizations use as a part of Office 365 because we are making use of a cloud platform which is available on the internet, and we need to make sure that only the right people get access to the right content, right? It's not possible that every time that you're sitting on your office and you're accessing content, sometimes you might be working from your home, or sometimes maybe you might be working from an internet cafe. So it could be possible. And so of course multi-factor authentication is the only way to make sure that the content is protected and it reaches the right person and it doesn't falls in wrong hand. So I've been talking a lot about Teams. So finally, if you ask me, all right, Vignesh, so what is Teams all about? So what is that in a nutshell? So in a nutshell, it is nothing but it's a chat-centric workspace that brings in a lot of Office 365 capabilities. So these are the features it includes. So you get Office 365 group as a part of a team. So what happens is when you're creating a team, you're indirectly creating an Office 365 group in the backend. So for folks who do not know what is Office 365 group, so that is once again a collaboration tool which can get in SharePoint, Exchange Online, your OneDrive, and then there is a lot. It is a complete package to altogether. So every time you're creating a Microsoft team, you're indirectly creating an Office 365 group on the backend. So maybe it would make a lot more sense when I say that your Teams is officially backed up by an Office 365 group. If you're deleting the Office 365 group, then of course your team is gone. So the team is the backend, and the group is the backend, and your Microsoft Teams is what you see on the front side. And then you get a SharePoint site as a part of team, and then you have Planner, and then you have Power BI, and then you have Office, Excel, and Word, and then of course you have Visual Studio, and then you have bots. So bot is something which is huge in market these days. You see a lot of chat bots, and Microsoft Teams even has that for you. So I've given a small note here. So these are the various manners from which you could create Office 365 group. So you could create an Office 365 group from your OVA, from your web client, from your Outlook web client. So you see an option there called as create Office 365 group, create groups. You just click on that. You could create a group for yourself. And as I said, if you're creating a team in Microsoft Teams, you're indirectly creating a group on the backend. And even from your OneDrive for Business console, you see an option there. I'm saying this, so whatever I'm mentioning is on the web. So you may or may not see that on the desktop or mobile client, but on the web client, of course, you will be seeing the option to create an Office 365 group. And then even from a planner, every time you're creating a planner, it creates an Office 365 group on the backend. And even on the SharePoint home, which gives you access to create a communication site as well as a SharePoint team site. So every time you're creating a SharePoint team site, it creates an Office 365 group on the backend. So when I say SharePoint team site, I'm speaking about from the SharePoint home, not from the SharePoint admin center from where you create a normal site collection. So that's not the place. This is from the SharePoint home. All right. So Office 365 groups. So as I just showed you, right? So these are the various places from where you could create a group. And of course, you all would imagine like if this is going to be the case, then everybody in my organization is gonna go ahead and create a group for themselves, right? And we know our users, they just want to play around, they just want to experiment things, they just want to see how it is because they just want to have fun, or maybe they just want to make use of it, they want to test it, or they want to break something, they want to do whatever they want, right? So in our organization, what we did as a part of adopting Office 365, so we went ahead and we disabled the creation of Office 365 groups. So which means any user, any average user, he won't be seeing the option which says create a group from his OVA or from his OneDrive for Business or Planner or something. So what this means is if I'm disabling the creation of Office 365 groups, no user in my tenant would be able to create a group from his OVA, or he won't be able to create a team because add a team button will be grayed out for him. So I'll show you in the demo. And then even on the OneDrive for Business, he won't be seeing that option which says create Office 365 group. The same goes for Planner as well as Home, because we wanted to make sure that we have proper control over this Office 365 groups, because we just on the earlier phase of we adopting Office 365, we discovered close to 500 Office 365 groups, and that was literally a crazy number, and it was not possible for us to manage. And hence we thought that there should be some way to have control on this. And then we spoke to Microsoft. We identified that the best way is to disable the creation of Office 365 groups, and by doing so we are disabling the creation of teams, planner, and all that other stuff. So every time a person wants a team, so he creates a ticket, it goes to the help desk, and they just create an Office 365 group, and yeah, then you can create a team on top of that. So it is demo time now. So I'm going to show you a demo on Teams. So till now, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or if you want, you can put that on the chat window so that I can, help you answer your questions. So any questions so far? So whatever it could be. Yes.
Vipin here. Can we program for Microsoft Team as we can program for Skype for Business?
No, Skype for Business doesn't give that kind of extensibility, but with Teams, yes, you could do that. But that's not the case with Skype for Business.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So any questions? So speaking about this customization of Skype for Teams, a couple of years before, I remember one user had this query wherein she came to me and she said, hey, every time someone pings me, I keep getting a glow down. Is there a way I could disable that? And that was one of the craziest requests I ever got, because that's the purpose, right? When someone pings you, you want that to glow. And she was coming to me and saying, is there a way I could disable that? So there is nothing that you could do, but on the maybe on the Skype for Business client tool, there are certain options which you could disable and enable, but there is no way you could program that. All right, so let's get into the demo. Let's see what we have for Microsoft Teams. And let me see, is Jayanti there? Yeah, I see she's there. And so Jayanti, would you be able to give us a demo? You there? Okay. Okay. All right, Jayanti. So why don't you just unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and show our audiences about what Teams is all about, and how it could help them to get their work done and improve their productivity. Go on.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Hope you can hear my voice.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's myself, Jayanti, Microsoft Certified Technology Specialist and SharePoint Developer. I'm passionate on Microsoft technologies such as Office 365, Power BI, and Dynamics CRM. So today I'll be taking care of the demo part, and Microsoft Teams will showcase some valuable information on how to use a Microsoft Team and rich capabilities and all. Okay, let's quickly get started with start using a Microsoft Team. Share my desktop. Okay. So hope it clear what's Microsoft Team is all about and its capabilities. Now let's see how to make use of Microsoft Team. To get started, open up a Microsoft Team app in your desktop client or in a web. Before that, make sure you installed the Microsoft Teams in your client. So let me open a Microsoft Team. So I just installed in my machine. So just type a Microsoft Team over here. So it will pop up, or if it is not installed in your machine, still there is an option there. You just go into teams.microsoft.com and download a Microsoft Teams, or otherwise, if you are an Office 365 user, hope you can see my screen. Then here is the go to app launcher. You can launch Microsoft Team from your Office 365 dashboard. Just opening up. So it's loading Microsoft Teams. So this is my team console. On the left hand side, you can see my login status. And I have got a main navigation bar with some set of tools, activities, chat, teams, meetings, and files. And here is in the column, so the list of teams and channels which is already created. First, let me show you how to create a team and how to create a channel, then so that you can collaborate with your team members. So by default, all users have a permission to create a team. So maximum 250 teams you can create a per account, and also you can hold up to 999 people in any team. So here is an option on left of the screen. You can find that option add team, or otherwise here you can see the icon teams icon and right click and create a team. So just give the team unique name. So say for example, let me give us Office 365 team and the description about the team. Fine. And here is this is a time to choose whether your team is going to be a private team or as a public team. So private teams, only the team owners can add members. If it is a public team, it's obviously is visible to everyone. So without getting a approval from your team owner, anyone can join with the public group. So let me make it as a private team as of now. So click next. Then in the next dialog box, you can add the team members for your newly created team. So if it is an individual number, you can add individually, or if at all, if people are having some security groups or a distribution list or Office sphere groups, so those groups also you can add in Office sphere team. So once all the members here, you can see you can assign the permission, like whether the users can have a member permission or is the owner permission. Just make it as a member or owner as per your convenient. Just click close once all the team members has been added. Now your team is added. Now a team is created now. So whenever you create a team at a back end, there is one Office 365 group will be created. Let's check whether the group is created now. So sometimes it will take time to reflect Office 365 groups in your machine, or still you can use you can see the Microsoft Team groups in your admin console. So yeah, here it's not reflected. So but if you are an admin, you can check from your Office 365 admin center. So just going to the Office 365 admin. Just loading now. So here you can see the list of groups. It's loading now. Let's click cancel and see. So here you can see the list of Office specific groups which is already created. So now let me go back to the Microsoft Teams. So once the team is created, the first step, like you have to create a channel for them. So it's a team, it's the right place to work together with your team members. It's bring all your collaborations, files, interactions into one experience. So we don't want to go for a multiple places to have a team conversation, working with the documents or accessing your reports or work with your team projects. So you can get all in one place. So if at all, if you are not a member of the group, if you would like to join with some other public group, in the sense you can go ahead and create a team. So while add a team, it will ask you, so if you would like to join in any other existing group, in the sense you can search the team if you know, then you can join in a public group. So once the team is created, you can have some channels. One team can have a number of channels over here. So let me add one channel. So channel is the biggest containers within a team and contains some content and conversation. Channels are here to help team conversations organized. So you can dedicate channels to specific topics, projects, or whatever works for your team. So as I said, you may have different channels under teams. Without a channel, there is nowhere to use the tabs and connectors. So let's add a channel first to your Microsoft Teams site. To add a channel, yes, you have to right click the team and create a channel name. So let me give it some channel over here. So ours Office Specific team, let me create as a SharePoint channel. So if at all, if you want, you can give a description over here. Channel for SharePoint later conversation. Just click add. So once the channel is created, take a peek at the additional options by clicking on the three dots next to the team. So let me see here. So if at all, if you want to make the channel as a favorite one, yes, you can make it as, or if you want to follow and unfollow the channel, you can do it. If you want to add some more members in your newly created channel, so here is an option to add members to this group. Or if you created a channel, then if you'd like to edit a channel name, so click edit team and change the name of the channel. So, and here you can note the get email address option. So, get link team or a get email address. So just click on that. If you select this, you can grab the channel's email address and it turn to your email client. So it's asking me to do something. So one minute, let me refresh the screen. So sometimes you may have some problems like this. So that advanced settings, using the settings, you can adjust the privacy settings for the email address. You can also remove the email address completely. So that email address is specifically for sending emails. So if you send an email with that link, that will automatically create a message in your Office 365 team. So get an email address. So again, it's getting some problem. It's okay, no problem. You can also look at what connectors available to the channel, particular channel. So here is some connectors available. So you can connect some third-party services as well. So if you would like to connect with the Twitter or Facebook, you can also connect over here. So connectors allow you to connect with your Microsoft third-party services. And once the connector is created,
So, so Jayanti, you there? All right, so looks like for some reason she couldn't. All right, so let me share my screen. I'll take it over from here. Hope you folks could see my screen now, guys. If you just put that on the chat, if you don't mind confirming once again. Okay. All right. Okay. So here I am. So I believe Jayanti showed you how to create a team and so what are the things that she can be doing. So I believe she left on creating connectors. Okay. Just give me a minute. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead with this Office 365 Office 365 one team. So as you could see, so we have a couple of channels in this. So I believe she showed you how to create a channel. So I'll just go ahead and create few more. So as a part of Office 365, let's say we have Exchange and just give it a minute while it creates. And let's say we have Skype for Business. All right. So let's deal with this. I'm gonna say add. So as she said, so team is your top level. So just if I hope most of you would be SharePoint folks, I'm going to assume so. So the team is like your top level site in a SharePoint site collection, whereas all the channels beneath that is like your subsites, right? So the teams is the top level, and all the channels which you see down is to keep your it's a separate category within each team. So it's meant for specific purposes, right? So let's say if I go to the SharePoint channel, so I'm gonna see this window which gives me some conversations, files and all. And let's say I'm having some conversation related about SharePoint, right? I'm gonna say, hey, at Jayanti. So I'm gonna say, okay, that's my bad. Did you check communication sites? Could be any conversation. So I'm gonna so what's happening here is this conversation which is happening here. It's a team conversation, which means anybody who's part of this team would be able to see this conversation, and all these conversations are threaded conversations similar to your Facebook. So I could reply to it, or maybe someone else could begin a part can join this conversation and they can start responding to this. Okay, so as a part of responding to these conversations, you see the small tab down here. So maybe I can go ahead here. I can it is something like email. I could make it as bold. I could make it as italics. So I could just choose this and say bold. I could just play around and make sure. So this kind of features was something new in Microsoft Teams. And then I could attach a document. I'll say, so when I say click on the attach button, it gives me all these options. So I could either attach a document from my OneDrive, or I could either attach a document from my computer, or I could either attach a document from a different channel or from a different team, provided that I'm a member or a owner of that channel or of that team. I'm sorry, or else I won't even have access to that team. So I'm gonna upload something from here. Let's say I go to documents, or let's say I have something interesting here. So let me go to my desktop. I have KBs. So let's go ahead and upload few attachments here. I'm gonna upload all these. It's gonna take a few minutes. All right, I'm gonna say, hey, see all these documents. So this is a cool experience, right? So I could just say, and the best part about this is I could just click here and I could open the document. And you see this, so I just wrote an article on the mineral future in SharePoint 2016, right? So I could, when I click on edit, so these are the various things. I could edit it right away from the Teams, or it could open in Word or Word Online, and I can edit this. All right, so now I go back. I close this. I was on SharePoint. Okay, so the next thing which you see here is the smiley. So you could have some emojis. So I believe this is something which is available on your personal Skype as well, and the same is allowed in your Teams as well. And then you have Jiffy. So this is something new. So maybe you're having a conversation and you want to sound cool, or maybe you want to sound funny, right? You want to say, "Hey, coffee," and you say, "How about coffee?" You could just send this, right? And then here you go. So here you have something called as stickers. So you have all these cool stickers, and you say, "Oh yeah," so yeah, so you could just say done, and you click on enter, it goes there. So this is something to sound, and then you have something called as meet now. So this is something which is really cool. So you could just click on this and you can start having a conversation, right? So you could just click on meet now and you can just give the subject of that and it'll start working for you. Or maybe you could turn it on, you can turn the video on. Now let's say if I turn off, it turns off. If I turn my video on, it turns it on. You can do everything right away from here, and you could schedule a meeting from this. So this was something which was not possible in your Skype for Business client, right? You do not see an option to schedule a meeting right from your Skype for Business client. So you have to do that from your Outlook client. But with Teams, yeah, that is possible. And so moving on, so let me talk about the tab. So we have something called as add and tab. So this is something which I was talking about in my slides before, wherein you could add few more tabs. There are certain things which are out of the box, and if you feel that that is not sufficient, you want to take advantage of a OneNote, you could just go ahead and add OneNote and say SharePoint docs, or maybe you could put SharePoint note, anything, and just save. And just give it a minute, and yeah, there you go. So it gets added like this, and you could have this OneNote, so it will be sitting here forever, and you could start having some conversations. Let's say as a part of SharePoint you're having a weekly meeting or a daily meeting and you want to capture some notes. You could put meeting notes for SharePoint. You could name this as meeting notes for SharePoint, and you could start having all the notes captured here. So you could similarly you could have a lot of tabs, a lot of things which you can start doing. Once you're done with this session, maybe you can go ahead and start exploring. You have Power BI. So let's say you have some reports on Power BI. You could just add this and it will be a part of your team. I'm sorry, part of your channel. You could have OneNote, you could have Planner, you could have YouTube, right? And then let me go back to connectors and show you any retention period, how many days this would be there. There is no such specific retention period. This is going to be there as long as it would be, unless and until you delete it. So this is going to remain there forever. So there is no specific retention period as such. And so let's say I see the connector here. I'll just talk a bit about what is a connector. Just allow it to load. So connector is nothing but extending your channels in a team to some external line of business or some third-party services, right? So let's say as a part of your team, you want to follow Twitter, right? Maybe you want to go with Yammer, maybe you want to go with Bing, or maybe you want to, there are like 80 plus connectors till date here, which you can take advantage of, right? So let's say I want to go ahead and make use of Twitter. I just go to conf. So that's my Twitter account right there. So I could give in my Twitter account and I could just give in what are the Twitter accounts I need to follow, right? And maybe I could say, let me just follow me itself. I hope that's fine. Anyway, I configured this on a different channel. I'll show you how it looks there. And what are the hashtags you want to follow? Let's say this is Office 365. So maybe I want to follow Office 365 so that I get all the conversations related to Office 365, all the tweets about Office 365, or maybe this is specific to SharePoint, right? So let me say SharePoint. So all the Twitter feeds or conversations related wherever people are using hash SharePoint, everything will start flowing in my channel for SharePoint. So as notifications, I could say I could only see replies, or I could see include mentions wherever SharePoint hash SharePoint has been mentioned, or include retweets. I could click everything. And this is how I set the frequency. I could get updates every day. I could get it weekly, once in 6 hours, or whatever I want. So we have configured this in a different place. So I'll just show you how it looks, because it has to take some time to download all the tweets. SharePoint. So you see this. So this is how the Twitter feeds would get downloaded. So we've been following something called as SharePoint, like Office 365. So all the conversations or all the Twitter feeds related to whatever you followed will start showing up, and you could like it from here and it'll reflect that, and you could retweet it, or you could view it in Twitter, and you could do whatever you want. So this is how you extend your team experience to some third-party services so that you could take advantage of that and inherit those features and make use of it as a part of your day-to-day work. Or maybe you're working on something new, you want to do some research on about that, so you could start following that. Maybe you're working something like on machine learning or whatever it is, you could just follow that, and you could see all the tweets which is coming around in that topic, right? So yeah, of course, that is indeed cool. And I would also like to take a minute and explain about all these options which you see there. So you could favorite a channel, which means there are, as of today, what Microsoft says is you could have close to 100 channels in a team. Okay, so a team can hold up to 100 channels, so the team owner can start creating up to 100 channels. And it's not possible for you to stay organized or see the contents on all those 100 channels. So in order to make sure that you're not missing anything, you could just favorite a channel. So I have favorited this, so it's showing me this button. So which means that once you're making a channel as your favorite, it'll start showing up down, it'll be listed down here. And right now we just have 3 to 4, so it's showing everything. But once you have made it as a favorite, you'll be seeing it'll be stacked down there. And you could edit this channel. Connectors is something which I just explained, and get email address. Let me show you what this is all about. So this is the email address for a channel, which means I could go ahead and send an email directly to this channel. I'll just show you. So we are on Office 365 SharePoint. So let me make note of that. I go here, I go to my email. So I could directly send an email as email, or I could just send an attachment and it'll go and sit right away inside that channel. All right, so I'm gonna write a new email. Let's see. I'm gonna put the address, and let me get rid of this. Okay, let me go ahead and attach something. So when I go to attachment, this is really cool. So you get to see that I could either attach my files from my OneDrive or something which is shared with me, something from my so this is something which has already been there for quite some time. So let me upload something from my computer. Let me upload this Microsoft Teams. All right, so a channel was something specific to SharePoint, I believe. So why don't I get something related to SharePoint? All right, so okay, so maybe okay, search reports not working. Maybe I wrote something on search reports. So it's asking how do you want to share this file. I'll say attach it as a copy. It attached. I'm going to click on send. Okay, I don't mind. Let you send it without a topic, and let's see what happens on Teams. I go here. You are an Office 365 SharePoint. We go all the way down. Let me try this one more time. Get email address. Maybe it went somewhere else. We had a lot of channels, which was pretty confusing. Just give me one more moment. Let me try this. I go here. I attach something. Okay, I attach this. I say next. I say attach as a copy. And let me give this as test doc. I'll say send. Let me confirm that it has been sent. Okay, let me go back to this channel. Okay, I'm on the desktop client. Okay, you see this here? So it showed up here. So this is what it is all about. So at times you could attach it. You don't need to be always present on the Teams client or on the Teams web client. You could just just make sure that you have the email address for your channels. You could just drop an email. You could just send an attachment so that anybody who's part of this could start seeing that document. So this is the kind of experience which you see on channels. I believe there were a few more options. So get linked to this channel. You could delete this channel. You could follow this channel. So once you're following this channel, so whatever updates which comes in, it'll be you would even see that as an email notification. Let's say for any given reason you're not online for the past 60 or 90 minutes, right? So Teams will be sending you a notification saying, hey, someone has sent you a note, or someone has did an app mention for you, or someone has did this in this channel. Why don't you go ahead and see this? So even those notifications are possible. And all right, so let me see what this has for me. So I go here on the top level, I go here. So this is how you could see. This is a generic overview of your team. So you could search for members right away from here, and you could see who's the owner or who's the member for this team. And you could see all the channels that are present on this team, and you could add a channel right away from here. And yeah, I mean, for quite some time we didn't talk about bot. So bot I'll be talking in detail in a few more minutes. So this is how you stay organized. So you as an owner can go ahead. Maybe you have been made as an owner for a specific team. You could have complete control of your team from here, and you could add a channel from here. Let me go to the web client experience. So from there you should be seeing a lot more better for some reasons. And let me also tell you that as of now, Teams is still not a matured product. It's still being studied, it's still been evolving. So there could be certain bugs, so there could be certain things which may not work. So, and you're most welcome to go ahead and give a feedback to Microsoft. So you see something called as feedback, this icon here, you could just click on this and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. So this feature didn't work. So, or maybe you don't know how that feature works. You could just write to them and they'll explain you. Or you always have tech community. You don't know how the particular feature works. You could just write to them and they'll be sweet enough to explain you. So here I could maybe as of now we both are owners. I could go ahead and change a person as a member right away. Even after creating a team, I want to make someone as a member. I could do it from here. And then channels, I could see all the channels, and I could see the people in each and every single channel, and I could see the last activity on each and every single channel. And then we have the settings. So you as an owner for a team could control everything. So you could say you could change your team picture from here. Can we archive the files and channel to a SharePoint? Of course, I'll come to that in a minute. I'll show you where your files are stored and how it works. And all the member permissions, yes, you could have controls. You could say whether members can create or update new channels, whether members are allowed to do this or do that. So this is pretty intuitive. Just go through this and you could get to know for yourself. And we have guest permissions. So of course your teams is just not meant for internal folks, it's also meant for external people. And if you're enabling guest access for your tenant, so even they can also be a part of your teams and they can start collaborating with you. And here is where you get to decide what your guests can do. If you do not want your guest to delete a channel or allow creating up, so all the permission controls, everything, and at mentions, you can control it from here for fun stuff. Maybe you do not want your users to just use all those Jaffies or images or all those cool emojis. You could control it from here. All right. So bot, you could say whether that is bot or create a custom bot or sideload a bot also. And so that was an interesting question about what happens to the file. So let me talk about that in a minute. So I go to files. So I see all my files here, right? And maybe you're wondering, where is my file getting saved, right? So in Teams, as I already said, Teams is creating an Office 365 group in the backend. And within an Office 365 group, you get a SharePoint site, you get a calendar, you get everything. And I click on open in SharePoint. So all the contents that you've been putting goes and sits inside your SharePoint site, which is attached to your group. So this is how it is. Right, I go to documents. All right. So all the channels that you create get created as a folder here. You see this, I created a channel called as Exchange. I created a channel called as SharePoint. I created a channel called as Skype for Business. So Jayanti has created something called as Test. And let me also tell you something. This is just a one-way flow. So the way this works is you create a channel there, it reflects here. It doesn't mean that you create a folder here, it reflects there as a channel. So that's not the case. That's not supported as of now. It is just a one-way flow. Whatever you create on a channel will come and sit here. Right? It creates as folders, and I go into SharePoint. I could see all the contents here. Right? And so this is interesting. I go to SharePoint. You see this folder called as email messages. So this is nothing but, is there any permission issues when the file store when the file store in SharePoint. No, it automatically manages your permissions. So whomever has access to that channel will have access to this. So that's the way it works. It automatically manages your permissions. So that's team has been brilliant enough. So it is designed in such a manner that whatever permissions you've been, let's say you're a member of a particular team, right? So of course you'll be having access to all the documents here. So you see this folder called as email messages. This is nothing but the attachment which I sent now. So any attachment which I'm sending to a channel in the form of an email, it comes and sits like this. It creates a folder, right? And so yeah, so this is the SharePoint site on the back end. This is how it stores everything. And let me go back. So for all this while, we've been talking about how contribute rights to, and if someone have contribute rights to, one moment. Yeah, of course. So let's say you are trying to control the permissions on the SharePoint. Maybe you extended the document library on the SharePoint site level. Yeah, of course they could go ahead and add their documents there. So that works. Yeah, you could control specific to that SharePoint. But as I said, so the way this works is whomever have access on the team will definitely have access on the SharePoint. In addition to that, you want to give specific permissions to someone who's not in the team, who's not a part of the team. You could very well go ahead and do it, but he'll be having access only to that document library or to that folder, but he can't get into the teams. So the way this works is either you add him to the team or either you add him to the Office 365 group in the backend, and automatically he'll be added to the Microsoft Teams. That's the way it works. And let's talk a bit about chat experience. All right, so all this while we've been talking about how we collaborate within a team, how we collaborate within a team, how we talk to people. Let me also tell you that if you do an at team, this goes to everybody. So what you want to say at team and you want to mention something, right? And you say hello. So this conversation goes to everyone in the team. This is the way it works. Simultaneously, if you want to mention a specific person, you just do like this and it goes only to them. So it's really smart enough and it was really built in a very good manner. And as of now, no. So there is no integration with on-premises version. And while dealing with the architecture, I'll come back to you. I have a lot more slides to show. Let me finish this. As of now, it doesn't integrate with your SharePoint 2016. Nope. And let's go to chat. So these are all your private chats, right? So maybe this is similar to your Skype for Business experience where you're doing a one-on-one chat with someone. So I'm just talking to Jayanti. I say hello, right? So if you guys don't mind, let me just log into, this is my desktop client. Okay, let me just log out and log in as Jayanti so that you guys could see how the notifications are being sent. So meanwhile that gets logged out, let me go ahead with my desktop client, desktop experience. So this is the chat. So this is how you have personal experience, personal chat, right? And maybe I'm talking to Jayanti, I said hello, right? And maybe if I want to say, hey, just check this file, and I'm giving an attachment here. It says I'm just going to upload from my computer. I say, yeah, okay, go ahead and check this. What is Azure? Just give it a minute. I'm going to send this. All right. So the way this works is a bit different. So you have shared, one moment. Okay. I go to files. So you could see this here, right? So the way this works is there are two views. One is something which happens within a team, so it will be open for everyone who's part of a team, everyone who's been collaborating here, and your private chat is only meant for one-on-one conversations, right? This is your organization, which is nothing but that is your organizational chat. You could see people in your hierarchy, your managers, your boss's boss, everybody here, and you could see all the activity that you've been doing, you as a person have been doing. So this is pretty cool, right? This is something which you didn't get to see before, and now you get to see everything. You could follow this back. And let me show you where this goes and sits. Now that you have this document, right? So I have shared this document with Jayanti, right? So any document which has been shared on a team, it goes and sits in your Office 365 group SharePoint document library, whereas any personal chats, any document which is shared on a personal chat, it goes and sits in your OneDrive for business. All right, so I'll show you how that works in a minute. Let me log in as Jayanti here. So because I want to have a multi-user experience, I'm going to impersonate myself as her so that I could show you how the experience looks like. Okay, let me log in. So far, someone says, so far, any doubts? So far, any questions with what I've been showing you, or is there any size plays limitation for team as of now? No. So it inherits your default SharePoint behavior. So do not think that team is a standalone plan such as your Power Apps. So team is something which pulls all together. The moment you're creating a team, it automatically calls a SharePoint site, which means the 25 TB which is allocated for a SharePoint site stays there. And it automatically calls in your OneDrive for business for a personal chat. So it puts it to your OneDrive for business. So do not think that it is a separate package altogether. That's not the case. When you're creating a team, it automatically calls that and it inherits that. So whatever is the limitation which is given for your SharePoint will be applicable here. Whatever is the limitation given for your Skype, or whatever is the limitation given for your mailbox, so everything applies as it is. So there is nothing specific to teams alone. It just inherits those behaviors here. All right, so I've logged in as Jayanti here. So you guys see this, all these activities and all this notification. This is how the notifications looks like in Teams. So you could just go here, chat, it shows Teams. So you could just go ahead and see, okay, someone has did an at mention for me in the team, someone has did a private chat. And of course, this activity tab is nothing but you could see what it's similar to your Facebook. You could filter here. This filter, you could see what is unread, what is mentioned, what is replies. So everything can be seen from here. Can we add AD group as a member channel in a SharePoint? Can we add AD group as a member of a channel as in SharePoint group? Yeah, see the SharePoint piece of it that works the way you expect SharePoint to work, provided that that AD group is synced to your Azure AD and cloud recognizes it, yes. But as I said, you don't need to confuse the permissions in a team. Whatever permissions you set, it flows to your SharePoint site, which is part of your teams. In addition to that, you want to give some specific permissions to someone else who's not part of a team, you could very well go ahead and do it. But he won't be a member on the team. That's not the case. Unless and until he's been added to the team, or unless and until he's been added to the backend Office 365 group, which was created as a part of a team, he will never have access to the team. He'll have access only maybe to that document library, or maybe to that subfolder, yeah, as a part of the SharePoint site which was created. All right, I was talking about chats. So just check this file. So let's see. So I logged in as Jayanti. So Jayanti shared something with me. Upload. I'll just show you. She shared something called as first release. I say send. Okay, so let me show you. I showed that everything which is part of your personal conversations, it goes and sits in your OneDrive. So I'll show you how it goes and gets stored in your OneDrive. And I go here. I go here. So I go to my op launcher. Let me open my OneDrive. You see this folder here which shows as Microsoft Team chat files. So this creates a folder here called as Microsoft Team chat files. I go into this, and of course you're going to see this file here. So this is how the permissions is getting managed, and this is something which is really brilliant, right? So it automatically understands your permissions, it automatically creates a folder, and it makes you to keep organized. So I hope you guys could get a feel about what Microsoft Teams is all about and how you can collaborate by now. So still have any questions or anything which didn't get into your heads, please feel free to put that in the chat, or maybe at the question section, or maybe you want to give me a buzz later, you're most welcome to ask it. And I'll just spend a couple of more minutes talking about meetings. So as a part of creating your team, so your team will pull your calendar from your Outlook. So as from your Exchange Online, so it automatically syncs your calendar. So you'll be seeing the meetings here. So you could schedule a meeting here. So this was something which was not possible in Skype for Business Online, wherein you cannot directly go ahead and schedule a meeting from the app. You need to go to Exchange, you need to go to the Outlook client and do that. But from here, you could directly go ahead and do it. So here you will be seeing the meetings, your Skype meetings, your normal, all the meetings which you see on your Outlook calendar, as well as your Skype meetings. So everything will be everything syncs here. That's the way this works. And if at all you're bothered about notifications, no, as of today, it doesn't give any pop-up for your meetings like the way it happens in your Microsoft Outlook client. That doesn't do that. Maybe in future, Microsoft would roll out that feature. And I go to files. Of course, all the files would be Microsoft Teams. should be showing me all the files which I have access to and what's been happening and the location for that. And this is something called as add cloud storage. As of now, I was just showing you OneDrive for business. And in addition to that, let's say you have files from Dropbox or ShareFile or Google Drive or somewhere else, you could go ahead and add those storage as well, and you could bring in those files into your teams and collaborate. Okay, so let me go ahead and so one last topic to cover would be your bots. This is your bot, and you could go ahead and discover bots. You can go ahead and add your bot. So there are a lot of bots available as of today. There are so many things. So in our scenario here, we went ahead and added a security bot, right? And if I go here, go to general tab, and I could talk to that. I go ahead and say at secretary bot. I could mention that, and I say hello. It's giving me something. It says, hey, do this. And maybe you could inherit this. You could inherit whatever bot which suits your line of business, and you could start talking with that, and you could do, I mean, it could be anything. And if at all you have developed your own bot, so even that is possible now, right? As you as an organization might be having some other bot which was already built in place, so you could go ahead and bring in those bot here, and you could integrate that, and that can be done as well. So it's time to conclude the demo. We have a lot more to talk. I hope you guys, I didn't overbore you with such a big demo. All right, so now let's go ahead to the architecture piece of Teams, right? So moving on to architecture. If you have any questions till now, please feel free to put it in the chat window. I'm just going to move on, assuming that you guys don't have any queries till now. All right, so no questions so far, all good. All right, so moving on to the Teams architecture. So as I said, Teams is designed for the cloud. As of now, this solution is only available on Office 365, right? There is no such on-premises version for it. So it is designed for the cloud. And Microsoft Teams is built on existing Microsoft technologies woven together by Office 365. As I said, so your Teams is officially backed up by your Office 365 group, right? So every time you're creating a team, you're creating an Office 365 group on the back end. And of course, a product like Microsoft Teams was created to amplify the value of Office 365. Because right now, you guys witnessed in the demo that it could talk to almost all the bits and pieces in the Office 365 ecosystem, right? Earlier with the Skype experience, you could just do chat, or maybe you could just attach some files and do those things. But that's not the case here. You could do everything, right? I mean, just imagine about this. Earlier, you need to go to your SharePoint site to get the work done on SharePoint. Then you need to go to Exchange to get your work done on Exchange. Then you need to go to your meetings to get the work done on meetings. Or maybe you're making use of Power BI, or could be anything. But that's not the case with Microsoft Teams, right? It is a centralized hub where you get when everything can be done from a single place, and that's the reason it has been called as the chat-centric workspace or the hub for workspace, right? And let me move on. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So anybody who's been working as an enterprise architect, or who's dealing with architecture or anything of that sort, so architecture in Latin, it means as rectangles. So as a part of my architecture, I'm going to show you a lot of rectangles, a lot of slides which has a lot of rectangles here. So I'm going to show you how Teams has been built and how it collaborates with other Office 365 services such as your SharePoint, your Exchange, your OneDrive, or maybe your Power BI, or all the other stuff, right? So this is your team client, and then how it collaborates. So let me also tell you that your Microsoft Teams is built on top of Azure. So most of your Office 365 services are built on top of Azure. So the backend infrastructure would be hosted on Azure, and the same goes with your team as well, right? I'll show you how it stacks up with your team services, with your Skype infrastructure, Azure, and other Office 365 platforms. So to begin with, so this is how the team client architecture looks like. So let me explain you the right hand side of this first. That's a bit easy. So of course, yes, you have a native mobile client for your team. So you have a native mobile app, a Windows store, and then you have something from your Apple store for Microsoft Teams, and then you could go ahead and download the client from Android Play Store as well, right? And then towards your left hand side, we showed you the desktop app. I was just as a part of my demo, I was showing the desktop app as well as the web client for Microsoft Teams. Yes, so there is a lot of coding which has been done. So Microsoft made use of TypeScript, jQuery, Angular, HTML, and then we have Electron. I believe most of you would be aware of Electron if you're from a developer background. So that is a library on GitHub. So that basically talks to your desktop applications, right? So this is how the architecture has been set up. And so those are the supported browser versions. So that is, we have Edge, IE11, Chrome, the latest version, and Firefox, the latest version. As far as the desktop applications are concerned, app is concerned, so either Windows 10, 8.1, 7, Mac OS. So these are the desktop operating systems which are supported for Microsoft Teams. Okay, so moving on. So the team conversation logical architecture. So I hope by the demo which I showed you now, this entire slide should make a lot of sense to you. Let me try to explain this to you and see if I can make you guys understand. So there's violet little guy here, that's basically you. All right, so you created a team, and as a part of your team, you created a modern group, an Office 365 group on the back end, right? And as a part of an Office 365 group, you created you created a team, and the team has a lot of channels within it. And within a channel, as a part of your team, you have your SharePoint site, and all the channels created will be going ahead and sitting as a folder within your SharePoint site. And of course, you could have some. I showed you that email how it goes, and it goes and creates sits as a subfolder inside that. And each channel could have its own tab, right? So that is how you would extend the behavior of your Microsoft Teams to other line of business or third-party services. And then you have the reply chain which is going on, wherein people do at mentions, they talk to each other, it goes as message. And then you could also have images, Jiffys, and other cool stuff which is part of your team conversations. So the one which you see towards your right hand side, that is completely how what happens on a team conversation, and the one which you see on the left hand side is what happens on a private conversation, right? So you chat, whatever files have been shared with you, it goes ahead and sits on your OneDrive. All right, so this is how the logical architecture for Microsoft Teams looks like. So team services, all right. So what happens is every time when you're creating a team, right, it goes ahead and calls the library for SharePoint Online, it calls the library for your OneDrive for Business, it calls the library for your Exchange, and it calls the library for your Office 365 group. So maybe you from as a user, you're just clicking on add team, but that's what happened on the back end, right? So the team services is nothing but, let's say, that's where you create it, right? And you're basically talking to the front end servers, right? You just go ahead, you use the client version, you just use the web client or use a desktop client, and you create a team. And on the back end, this is what happens. So team management can be done by the owner or the admin. And then extensibility, yes, you have the tabs to extend your teams to other line of sources. You have graph, you have bots, and configuration can be done. So on the settings store, I just showed you the settings store where you could control everything on Teams. You could say, I can allow this as a team owner, I do not want to allow this, I do not want people using at mentions, I do not want my people using Facebook or Twitter, and all those kind of things. And notifications, yes, you get a notification on your team window as well, in your team app. And in addition to that, you even get to see emails. And then we have compliance. So compliance is something which I didn't touch base till now. So the way this works is, whatever compliance, whatever DLP policies, whatever security policies are applicable for your SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive, the same flows for Teams, because Team is a platform which talks to all these services. So whatever compliance applies to that, the same reflects here as well, right? And the retention policies, so everything. Let's say you know how to put a retention. You're putting a mailbox on litigation hold, right? The same applies here as well. And as a part of your identity authorization, because every time you're creating a team, it checks the licenses, whether you have the proper licenses, whether you have been enabled, whether you have that the future for Teams has been turned on as a part of your license, and whether you have turned, only then you get to create it. And then Teams and Skype, so this is how the infrastructure for that looks like. So let me try to explain this really quick. So messaging, yes, as a part of messaging, you get to chat, you get to add some medias, you get to add some attachments. And if at all you have noticed, the search experience in Teams is really cool. You get to search for people, you get to search for the documents, a lot of things that you could do. URL preview, so every time you're putting in a URL, you have that preview. And then you have the notification hub, right? So every time someone does an at mention, every time someone mentions you or there is some activity going on, you have the notification hub. And then you have the personal expression as well, using your Jiffies, smileys, your emojis, and all those things. So people presence is possible. So experimentation as a part of config, let's say this is not available for public for Office 365 customers, but within Microsoft, wherein they are the ones who develop and work on a product called as Teams, so they could have a specific group of people and they could experiment themselves by turning on or disabling certain features, or maybe they're trying to bring in a new feature, right? So they could do that. And then your identity, you have your Skype identity as well as your permission. When I say permission services, this is your guest access, right? So what a guest can do, what a guest cannot do, so all those things. So this is how your Skype stacks up with Microsoft Teams. This is how it goes hands on hand with your Microsoft Teams. So Teams and Office 365. So there are two ways to see this. So you have platform as well as application, right? So you have this Exchange. So as far as platform is concerned, you have Exchange, modern groups, SharePoint, Stream, OneDrive for Business, information protection. These are all the platforms which are available in your Office 365. And then as a part of applications, you have your OneNote, you have your Power Apps, you have your Planner, PowerPoint, and of course, as a part of data analytics, you have your Microsoft Power BI. Okay. Yes, of course, indeed, Team is a game changer for Microsoft. And as I already been saying, your Teams is built on Azure. So anybody who's been working on Azure, anybody who has been building things on Azure, I hope this slide makes a lot of sense to you, right? So cloud service, storage, app services, notification hub, multi-factor authentication, Azure Active Directory, have your event hubs, notification hubs. So as I showed you a demo on Teams, you guys would understand everything, because yes, Team is hosted on cloud, so we're making use of cloud services. Storage, as I said, it is built on top of Azure, so we are making use of that. Then we have multi-factor authentication. If at all you're using MFA for identity management for Office 365, then Azure Active Directory is where your users are taken care of. And it goes on, right? Media services, notification hubs, so all your notifications, event hubs, so everything is built on top of Azure. So what I mean by that is your Microsoft Teams is something which is sitting on top of Azure, like similar to any other Office 365 service. So this is the high level architecture for Microsoft Teams, right? So this is indeed a very big slide. So I'll just try to explain you one single flow. So you're creating a team. Maybe you went to the add team button, you're creating a team from a web or desktop client. It goes ahead and calls the team services, right? And then it goes ahead and creates a SharePoint online site. It creates an Office 365 group on the back end, right? And all of a sudden, yeah, you have a team right in front of you. So indeed, it's going to take a lot of time if I want to go in depth in detail about the complete architecture. But anyway, there is a good presentation on this, a good article. I'll be sharing that with you folks later after this presentation. But this is how the complete high level architecture looks like. And this weird little thing which you guys see here towards your bottom right corner, so that is the notification hub. The Firehouse Listener is nothing but is where all the notifications are taken care of, right? So that's how people get to see your at mention. So that is a service which is basically used for Microsoft to make the notification piece work. Okay, so where are my files stored? So I've been talking about how to make use of it. It's been built. I've been talking about the architecture of it, but where are my files stored? I believe this is something which I already showed you as a part of your demo, right? So your one-on-one chats, all the files are getting stored on your OneDrive for Business, and all your team conversations are getting stored on a SharePoint site, which is created as a part of Office 365 group. And of course, if at all you want to add files from an cloud storage, you could very well go ahead and do that. Okay, so any questions so far? Anything which maybe you thought that I was a bit speed in explaining that, or something which didn't make sense to you? If you feel like something is of that sort, please feel free to go ahead and post that in the chat. So my intention is to make sure that you guys are following me as I explain things. So where are my conversations getting saved? So we spoke about where the documents are getting saved. Where are my conversations are getting saved? So as I said, Azure is on the backend, so all your chat services in memory processing, so it is on the Azure blob storage, right? So Chat and channel messages are also stored in Exchange for information protection. So if at all you're a person who's been working with Exchange, you know what Exchange information protection means, right? So all your chat and channel messages are getting saved there. And someone asked about retention and all, right? Yes. So once your team is deleted, of course you could still go ahead and make use of this. You could make use of your retention policies, or make use of litigation hold, and make sure that the conversations are saved. Okay. One question: how many people can there be in one team? Is it more than 99? No, as of now it is 999. I have a specific slide on where which explains the limitation, so maybe you can get some insight from there. So coming back to the data centers for Microsoft Teams, as of today, it is available in 181 countries. So Microsoft Teams is open for 181 countries. It is available in 25 different languages. If at all you guys remember, earlier this April is when Microsoft announced Teams. From that onwards, it has been going. It's been available to the public, right? So back then it was just 18 languages, if I'm not wrong, but as of today it is 25 languages, right? Whereas your chatbot could support only 5 languages. So as of now it is only 5. Maybe in the near future it will be some more languages. All right. So coming to the data centers, yes, so Microsoft Teams is available in 3 different regions: in the US, in the EMEA, as well as in the APAC, right? So all your chat data is stored in region, right? All the data which all your chat content is getting stored in region, which means whatever location you choose as a part of your Office 365 subscription, right? And Microsoft is also working on developing few more data centers for Microsoft Teams. There are a lot of good articles. I have some reference contents for you later on this presentation. You could just go there and read in detail about where your chat content is getting saved, on which region, on which data center, where are my files getting saved, and how it works on the backend. All right, moving on. So AAD sync. So this is something which I said, as if at all you're planning to make use of Teams, you need to make sure that it's not just for Teams. For any Office 365 service, your identity should be synced with the cloud. So what I'm trying to tell from this slide is, I told you that your Teams is officially backed up by an Office 365 group, isn't it? So let's say you could add up, you as an owner for your team can directly go ahead and add a member to your team, or maybe you could go ahead and add him to the Office 365 group on the backend, which was created as a part of your team, and he would be automatically synced to that team. So that's the way it works. As of now, the sync should take 15 minutes. You add a person to the Office 365 group, which was created as a part of the team, he'll automatically have access to the Microsoft, to the team channels and all other stuff. And the SLA is 24 hours, and we all been working with Office 365 for quite some time, and anything on the cloud, we say it's going to take 24 hours to reflect, and the same goes for Teams as well. So Slack versus Teams. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard about Slack. So Slack was a product which was similar to Teams, not similar. I would say that Microsoft Teams was an inspiration from Slack. So if you just see the view of Slack, it is something which is similar to this. So everything was captured from there, and we made use of this. So Slack is the idea from which Microsoft Teams was copied from. So we just see this, and this is how my Slack looks like. However, as of today, Microsoft Teams is the one which is leading as opposed to Slack and any other collaboration platform which could give the similar experience. So 7 things Microsoft Teams does better than Slack. So these are the 7 different things. So mobile device management, MDM. So if at all you're using Intune as a part of your Office 365, so you could have your Microsoft Teams app push to your company portal in Intune, and you could have control about what that app could do and app cannot do. And as I said, it integrates with all the Office 365 ecosystem because it is a part of your Office 365 suite, wherein Slack is a separate product altogether. You need to purchase it separately, and that is not part of your Office 365 life. That's a separate product altogether. And third-party integration is something which is not possible in your Slack, whereas in Teams, I showed you the power of what it can do when it comes to third-party integration. That is something which is really cool. And then you have tabs, which is not the case in Slack. And then you have inline replies similar to your Facebook, and then support for 25 different languages and security. So these are the various things which Microsoft Teams is better when compared to Slack. So organizing your teams. So as I said, membership and roles. So the owner is a person who is the one who creates the team, who has complete access, and member is the one who's a part of the team and he has very limited controls as opposed to an owner. And anytime you can go ahead and make a member as your owner. All right. I'm not going to really go ahead and read all the content which is explained in this slide, because by now you guys would have an understanding about what is a team, who's an owner, what is a member, what an owner can do, and what a member can do. Is there any pricing for teams like Power BI and Flow? Nothing as of such, right? I have a separate slide later about licensing, so you'll see there about what is the licensing for teams. So these are the capabilities for a team owner, what a team owner can do and what a team member can do. Later, after this presentation, I'll be sharing this slide with all of you, to everyone who had enrolled for this session, so that you could make use of all the contents, all the slides, and maybe if you're working on a project for teams, you could use this as a reference. So service administration, so similar to your Skype for Business, even Teams, of course, sure, I'll be sending the recording. So as a part of your service administration is really the key in Office 365, right? So as of today, we have various roles. We have a role for Exchange Online, we have a role for SharePoint Online, but as of today, we do not have a specific role for Microsoft Teams. It's only the global admin who could go ahead and deal with Microsoft Teams, right? Who could have control on the admin settings for Microsoft Teams. I'll just show you what can be done on a service administration level. And if at all someone asks this question, like what happens if I want to give access only on the SharePoint site which gets created? Yes, of course, you need to go ahead and turn on external sharing only for SharePoint, and you could go ahead and give access to a guest user on the SharePoint document libraries or on the SharePoint folders. I'll just show you on how service administration looks like. Just few minutes left, and I'm sorry that I had to go more than the allowed time, but we have a lot more to cover. Just few more minutes. I was supposed to show you the service admin page. Just give me a minute. Okay. I go here. I go to admin center, and not here. I'm sorry. As I said, as of today. All right. Thanks for the encouragement. So I go to settings, I go to services and add-ins. As I already explained, folks, as of today, there is no separate admin center for Microsoft Teams like you see for your SharePoint, your Exchange, or your Skype for Business. But Microsoft has announced that they are working on a separate admin center altogether. Maybe that will come sometime on 2018. I'm going to go all the way around. So you see this, Microsoft Teams. So this is the admin center for Teams. So an admin, a guy who has an Office 365 global admin role, would be able to access this. So this is where you control the tenant-wide settings, all right, or general. So you could see show organizational chart in personal profile. So if at all I'm turning this off here, my folks won't be able to see this on Teams. So even the owner or nobody can do anything. So if at all I go ahead and turn this off, so none of this would be reflecting there. Use Skype for Business for recipients who do not have Microsoft Teams. So there is a lot here. Everything can be controlled from here. Allow users, so senders list, so apps, maybe all those tabs, external apps, side loading of external apps. When I say apps, these are your tabs as well as all those connectors and all those cool stuff, right? So what happened, because me being a technical manager, my job is to ensure that Office 365 is really delivered in a manner it is supposed to be for my clients and for my end users. And we just went live with we are just not live yet. We are in the pilot phase. We've been dealing with teams. We are just trying to identify some pilot users who share the same vision and goal. Maybe they want to use Teams for themselves and see how it could help them to be more productive. So we identified certain pilot groups. We have rolled out Teams for them, and we wanted to make sure that our users do not take this experience for granted. So there are certain things which we want to turn it off. So we went ahead and we turned off Box, because we do not want someone having their personal content from Box or Dropbox or Google Drive, because most of these are meant for your personal storage. This has nothing to do with your business. So if at all you want, you could go ahead and turn off all these things. So what happens if I turn this off? Adding a cloud storage will vanish off. You do not want that, so users won't be able to see this. If I say enable new apps by default, if I'm just going to close all this off, then all the cool stuff which I showed you, you see this, I can uncheck here. Maybe I do not want my users to make use of Twitter or Facebook. Yeah, right. Because it's not really cool to see any of your confidential document on a Twitter chat or maybe on a Facebook post. That's not really cool. I mean, at the worst case, you would get fired. All right. So if you want to turn off all those features and make sure that your users do not take this experience for granted, you can just turn it off everything. So you as an admin have complete control on what are the features which you can allow for Microsoft Teams and what are the features which you can't. You can just go ahead. So Teams and channels, you could see what is there, calls and meetings. Here is a lot of video, screen sharing. So everything can be controlled from here. So Jiffy's content moderation. So everything, there is a lot here. So everything can be controlled from here. This is just a small demo which I want to show you about how service administration works. Okay, so let me go back to my slide. So Microsoft Teams client. So what do we have here? So I believe I showed you the web client. I showed you how Teams can be accessed using your web client. Then I also showed you the experience on a desktop client. And for some reason, folks, let me tell you, the features which you see on a desktop client and the features which you see on a web client, there are some small variations. You don't get to see everything there. Maybe there is a specific button, or maybe there is a specific feature which is available on the web client that is not there in desktop client. I mean, I made my point very clear. As of today, Teams is not yet matured. It is still a product which is being evolved. It is still a product which is being studied by people, right? So maybe that's the case for any Office 365 product. So as you report the bug and Microsoft gets all these feedbacks, they would be developing that product and it will turn out to become a more matured platform maybe sometime in 2018. But as of now, there are certain known bugs. So let me tell you that right away. And then you have a mobile client for that as well. So that's the download link. And so these are the platform requirements. So if at all you're planning an implementation of Microsoft Teams, so these are the supported web browsers. When it comes to the desktop operating system, these are the supported desktop operating systems. And when it comes to the mobile, so these are the supported mobile devices or maybe the mobile operating systems which support Teams from Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. So mobile meeting. So this is how the console looks like in a device, in a mobile device. And if you guys could allow me, I would just like to take a minute and show you how this looks like in my mobile device. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to share. I hold an iPhone 7 device. Let me just show you that. Okay. All right, so there you go. So that's my mobile phone there. All right, so here you go. So this is the Teams client. You guys see this? I hope you can see. So I just click on this. So that's how the experience looks like. So this is the mobile client. I see I go in chat, I could see everything here. I go to Teams, I could see all the teams which I'm a part of. So the experience is almost similar as what you see on a desktop or web client. I go to meetings, I could see all my meetings from here. I go to calls, I could see all the calls from here. And I go to activity, I could see all the activity from here. All right, so let's say if someone is giving me a call, so let's say I logged in here as Jayanti. So let's say Jayanti is trying to call me. Let's see what happens. You guys could see this, right? So this is similar to how you get a call on your maybe a normal mobile call. So this is the experience which you see on your mobile device. Something really cool, isn't it? And let me also tell you that if I go to my phone calls on my Apple device, so I could see, if you see this, you could also see the calls which is stacked up along with my personal calls, right? Okay, so that's a small demo on how it looks like on my mobile device. Okay, just a few more slides left. So team structure, so teams and channels. This is something which we already explained to you. We told you what Teams is all about and what the reason for you to create channels, just to make sure that everything is organized and you have separate categorization or separate channels to make sure that you're organized. You have something for SharePoint, you have something for Exchange, you have something for Skype for Business, so that you could identify separate categorization and have the conversations going on within that channel. And this is an overview of how it looks like. So I think I don't need to explain this anymore, because by now you guys would have understood what is a team, what is a channel, what are the tabs, and how the complete interface looks like. So this is just a clipping which I managed to get from a Microsoft blog site, right? So here's the organization. Within an organization, you could have so many teams, right? Maybe the IT admin. In our case, the IT admin created so many teams. You created a help desk support ticket. He created a team for you, and you as a team owner can go ahead and create so many channels, right? And within a channel, you could have conversations, files, notes, connectors, everything going on. This is just an overview of how this looks like. Okay, I see something here. Can make calls. Yes, yes, you could. The external users, I'll be explaining about that as well. Just give me a minute. So enabling Microsoft Teams. So I believe there was some question about what happens with SharePoint on premises or what happens with Exchange. So this is the experience for Microsoft Teams. All right. So with Exchange, if at all you're running Exchange online. So let me also tell you that if you want to get the complete experience of Microsoft Teams, right? If you want to take advantage of that, you need to make sure that you have enough license, you have the proper license for Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, and Office 365 Group. So that's when it is. I mean, this is something which is really, I mean, I showed you everything and then I'm just telling this is how Microsoft pushes us to buy all their products, right? It is not a standalone product called as Teams. So unless and until you have an Exchange Online license or SharePoint Online license or OneDrive for Business, you would not be getting the complete experience of team. That will be, if let's say if you do not have SharePoint Online license, then there is no way you could attach files and it goes and sit in the share. You won't have access to those files at all because you do not have SharePoint Online license. And let's say you don't have OneDrive for Business, your files are not going to go and sit in your OneDrive because there is no OneDrive at all for you. And in that aspect, from Exchange Online, so this is what can be done. An Exchange Online dedicated and Exchange Online dedicated versus legacy. And let's say Exchange on premises, if at all you're running hybrid. So these are the things which can be done and these are the things which cannot be done. So later after this presentation, I'll be sharing the slides so you guys can take a good look for yourself. All right. So team integration with SharePoint Online. So this is how the overview looks like. So Teams, you have a lot of tabs here. You have a lot of channels, and this is how your things goes and sit on a SharePoint Online set. You have shared documents, top level, and then all the folders which gets created within this. So team integration with OneDrive for Business. So as I said, this is for your personal chats. So every time an attachment is being given, it goes ahead and creates a folder called as Microsoft Team Chat Files, and all your files sit there. And so SharePoint Online is required, of course, for Microsoft Teams, right? So as I said, you need to make sure that you're having the SharePoint Online license, or else the specific piece which is related to SharePoint wouldn't work for you in Teams. And Skype for Business, yes. So Skype for Business is currently available and for making all your calls and all those things. So Skype for Business is a part of your team, and even that is required. So planning, of course, if at all you're in the adoption of Microsoft Teams for your organization, these are the things which you need to plan for. So Microsoft Teams combines all these three forms of traffic. So the data between the Office 365 online environment. So this is just not the case for Teams. So if at all you're adopting any Office 365 service, you need to make sure that you're working with the network team or maybe the LAN WAN or any team, and make sure that the specific number of ports and everything is open only then, because you're trying to access a source which is sitting on the internet. And maybe for some given reason, if your organization doesn't allow you to collaborate with the internet sites and all, right, or you do not have access to internet, then that's not possible. You need to make sure that the specific ports are opened. You have your bandwidth calculator. This is the case for any Office 365 service because you're accessing a SaaS platform which is hosted on Microsoft's data center. So you need to make sure that you're running the proper bandwidth, you have the enough network bandwidth, and only then you can adopt it. So network assessment, yes, so you could do all these things. So this is, I think I don't need to even explain this because this is the case for any Office 365 service. If you want to onboard it, you need to make sure that you're doing all these required tests, and only then you could onboard or adopt that particular service. When it comes to security on authentication, yes, so you have all these three different identity models. You could either be a cloud application, I mean, you could be, maybe you do not have an on-premises Active Directory and all your user identities are stored only on cloud, that is supported. Or maybe it is synchronized with your on-premises AD. You're using the Azure AD tool, Connect tool, and you're syncing all your on-premise identities to Office 365 Azure AD. Even that is possible, and you could give in the necessary licenses, and that can be done. And federated, if at all you're using ADFS, and MFA, as I said, for multi-factor authentication. URL and media stack. So this is something for Skype folks. So if at all, this is what happens on a Skype call. So guest access, so as we said, so the guest control can be done on the Azure AD level, right? So anybody who has, maybe you could create an Office 365 organizational account for your guests and turn on Teams for them, or maybe if you're enabling guest access on a tenant level, right? So the same would flow for Teams as well. So maybe the users, maybe your tenant has guest access enabled, maybe there are specific domains which you're allowing, saying, hey, you know what, all these domains can be allowed, and I'm allowed to share documents, I'm allowed to collaborate documents with people from these domains, whomever has this email address. So that's how you control your guest access. And this is the guest access architecture if at all you're interested. And this is not specific to Teams alone. This is specific to any Microsoft product. This is how the guest access works like. And these are the guest access capabilities. So what a guest can do and what a guest cannot do. Let's say you're enabling guest access for Teams in your Office 365 tenant. So this is what a guest user can do and what a guest user cannot do. All right, and the next thing is, so roadmap. So this is what is rolling out as of now for Microsoft Teams. We have a lot of things which is going on as a part of our roadmap. All right, so I'll just try to cover one by one. So we have this cards. I mean, if at all you're making use of the Power BI adoption content pack, right? So that is something which you could use as a part of Power BI, and that will give you an overview of how all the Office 365 services are being used within your organization. So as of now, that is made available for for Microsoft Teams as well. And then, just give me 1 minute. Okay, this is the adoption content pack, and then the audio and PSTN conferencing. So as of today, audio and PSTN conferencing is only available for Skype for Business users, right? So it is not available in Teams for now. But since Teams is going to replace your Skype for Business online, so very soon we'll be seeing the audio PSTN for Microsoft Teams as well. And a meeting recording, as a meeting is happening, you could record that meeting as well, and it will stay within that team itself, as you see here. Right, so the meeting will be stored here, and maybe for some reason if you miss that meeting, you could go here and play it back for you and see it. This is something which is really cool, isn't it? Because before this, let's say you're having a Skype meeting, you have to record it and it goes and gets saved in your local system somewhere, but that's not the case with Teams. It goes ahead and gets saved there as well, and maybe for some reason if you couldn't join, you could go ahead and play back the meeting and see what were the points that were discussed. Skype room system. So anybody who's been working on Skype, I mean, there are very few organizations which adopt this functionality. And this is, you could have all your video conferencing on all your meeting broadcast with Skype room systems. And the same will be applicable for Microsoft Teams as well, maybe in the near future. This is in the roadmap. And call quality diagnostic portal. So if at all you've been managing Skype for Business for your users, so you could see uh, how people rate after a call, and you could see the complete call quality dashboard. So the same will be, if you see this, as of now, you could choose between all Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. This is something which is rolling out. So once a separate admin center for Microsoft Teams is available, so once Microsoft Teams is on full-fledged mode, and I mean, you could see this rolling out as well. So this is in the roadmap. And then, so this is a separate admin center which I was talking about. So we have you could manage your Teams as well as your Skype for Business side by side. You could take care of all these things. This is something which is available only within Microsoft. As of now, it is in the development mode, but very soon it would be made available for all the users, for all the Office 365 customers. But yes, even this is coming out. You could manage your Teams as well as your Skype for Business side by side. Okay, so limitations. I was getting a lot of questions about limitations. What is the number? So please take a good look for yourself. So these are the limitations as of today in Microsoft Teams. Once again, so this is a collaboration platform. So there should be a limit which we should be having. And as of today, these are the limits. So please take a good look for yourself. And maybe once I share the slide later with you all, you guys could, make use of this. And, so just moving on. So licensing for Microsoft Teams, I shared some questions on micro licensing as well. And as of today, these are the only Office 365 plans which support Microsoft Teams. I'm sorry to say only, because I believe almost all the plans are available here, and which means that Microsoft Teams is available for almost all the plans, right? So you as an organization should either be, just a wild guess, you should be either on E3 or maybe E1 or E5, right? So this is how you go ahead and turn on. Let's say you're assigning E3 license for a specific user. This is where you control. You go ahead and turn it on for him. Then he'll be starting Teams, start seeing Teams on his app launcher. So that is the way it works. Or maybe you want to turn on Teams only for a pilot group. So maybe you create a group, and that group gets synced to your Azure AD, and then you could go to Azure AD on your Azure AD portal, Azure AD, if at all you have the EMS license, right, Azure AD Premium, and from there you could go ahead and turn on Teams. So Teams will be available only for that specific group. So that's the way we've been doing in our organization. So every new service, maybe Teams or Power Apps or Flow, we just turn it on, and from then onwards it will be available for them. So as of today, this is what Teams has been doing, and this is how it captured the market. So almost 125k organizations have been using Microsoft Teams, which is indeed a huge number, and it is available in 25 languages, 181 markets. When I say market, these could be different organizations. It could be IT, it could be manufacturing, it could be transport, it could be anything for that matter. And 100 million Office 365 active users, 100 million, I'm sorry. So these are the different use case scenarios for Microsoft Teams, right? I'm not going to go through all the content. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but I believe by seeing the slide, you could get an overview for yourself, right? So be it customer support, engineering, finance, HR, marketing, sales, or operations and project management. So you could make use of Teams for all these different departments, and those are certain scenarios. So recap, so we are almost in the end of our presentation. So I believe we've been talking a lot. It's been close to 2 hours now. So we've been dealing with a lot of information. So just a final recap. So I begin my presentation with giving an introduction to Microsoft Teams. And then we spoke about the architecture of Microsoft Teams. I show you a lot of rectangles, right? I showed you how Teams is built. It's built on Azure, and what happens when you're trying to create a team, what are the libraries it calls, right? And then we had a demo on Microsoft Teams. I believe by now you guys got an overview of what Teams is all about and what it can do, and how you can leverage Teams to some external line of business or other third-party services. I showed you how to organize your team in Microsoft Teams by creating channels. I showed you the Microsoft Teams clients as well. I showed the web client, I showed you the desktop client, I also showed you the mobile client. And I gave you some insights about how to plan the implementation of Microsoft Teams. So let's say you as an organization, you want to adopt Microsoft Teams. So what are the uh, maybe what are the factors that you need to consider of from the network bandwidth perspective, from a licensing perspective, right, and from a future perspective, what are the things that you need to be aware of, right? And I also showed you what to expect with Teams replacing Skype for Business. I showed you the roadmap. So as from the roadmap, you guys would have clearly understood that whatever was possible in Skype for Business will now be possible on Teams as well. What I mean by that is, at least the call and chat feature, everything which you saw on Skype for Business will now be a part of Microsoft Teams. And I showed you the roadmap as well as certain use cases. So these are some useful reference articles for yourself, folks. If at all you're more interested on Teams, you want to understand more in detail about this, these are some good reference articles for yourself, so you could start reading all these things. I urge you all to go through all these things, right? And there are some useful sites which you need to be aware of if at all you're planning to start your journey with Microsoft Teams in your organization. So success with Teams, you also have a team toolkit which has been rolling out. And if at all you've been seeing all the sessions from Ignite on Microsoft Teams, so there is a lot which is coming on Teams. So I urge you all to go through all these links, try to read them and get some good insights about Microsoft Teams. So finally, it's a moment to conclude. We've been talking for quite a lot of time, and thank you so much for being so patient. I believe I took a lot of your time, but still I believe it was indeed a worthwhile session for you all. So Microsoft Teams is designed to provide an easier way for small groups of people to communicate and collaborate. I hope you guys would agree with me. It's just not small group, it is even for a large amount of audiences, right? It's just not meant for chatting or calling. There is a lot that you could do, and you guys just witnessed that. and the de facto approach of communicating via group emails and sharing files via patchwork of different services is difficult. I hope you all would agree with this, because today, as a part of our day-to-day work, right, we have a lot of browser windows open, we have a lot of Skype windows open, we have so many emails which is open, but just imagine what teams can do. I mean, everything can be eradicated, everything can be controlled from a single hub, right? So you don't need to, you won't be lost when someone pings you, you don't respond to them later. So that's not possible, right? So with teams, you are organized in a single place, you understand what's going on, and there is no way for you to miss anything. And a product like Teams is just not meant for collaboration, but also to get your work done in a smarter way. Of course, it is, because seeing what it could do and seeing its integration and rich capabilities and seeing the way it could make you more productive, it is definitely going to help you to achieve more and work in a smarter way. And of course, there are a few more players in the market, such as Slack and Atlassian HipChat, which have a similar experience as of Microsoft Teams. Let me also tell you that Slack was the product which came out initially, and Teams was something which was, which was inspired from that, and they created. The only best part about Teams is there is a lot that it could do, which Slack cannot do, right? And a product like Microsoft Teams is definitely a must-have in modern era, right? So we all would like to get our work done on the fly, right? It's not possible for us to just sit in front of a laptop or a desktop, or maybe you're sitting in a, that's not the case, because as of today, we like to collaborate, we like to get your work done. Maybe you're sitting on an airport or maybe somewhere else, and definitely a product like Team, right? It is a must need to make sure that you can get your work done on the fly. All right, folks, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and thank you so much for being so patient and for listening to me. All right, so if you guys have any questions, and if at all you have any queries, you are most welcome to ask now. Or if at all you want to talk to me later, or give me a chat or email, or maybe you want to get hold of me on Twitter, I'll share you all those informations. But thank you once again for joining me this evening. So any questions, anything from your end, anything that I can answer? All right, so I'm going to take that as a no. So I'll be sharing the recording as well as, thank you so much for your, for your encouraging words. And of course, thank you so much, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vignesh. It's really very informative.
Thanks, folks. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Vignesh.